Right now, as you're reading this, trillions of quantum particles are dancing through your body in ways that would make Einstein's head spin. But here's what will absolutely blow your mind. Recent discoveries in quantum physics suggest that consciousness might not be produced by your brain at all, but rather exists as information patterns that could survive the death of your physical body. And I'm not talking about wishful thinking or New Age nonsense. I'm talking about cutting-edge research from Nobel Prize-winning physicists who are discovering that the universe operates according to principles so strange and counterintuitive that death itself might be nothing more than a phase transition in consciousness. Before you click away thinking this is too good to be true, stick with me for the next few minutes because what I'm about to show you will fundamentally change how you see life, death, and your place in reality. We're going to dive into legitimate scientific research that suggests consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms that transcend the boundaries of individual brains. Hit that subscribe button because this journey into quantum consciousness will challenge everything you thought you knew about what happens when we die. Let me start with a story that changed everything. In 1961, a young physicist named Eugene Wigner was grappling with one of quantum mechanics' most disturbing implications. He discovered that conscious observation appears to be necessary for quantum systems to collapse from multiple possible states into definite reality. This wasn't just academic theorizing. Wigner realized that if consciousness can influence quantum systems, then consciousness itself might operate according to quantum principles that don't follow the classical laws of physics that govern our everyday world. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-bending. Wigner's friend, a brilliant mathematician, posed a question that shattered conventional thinking about consciousness and reality. If a conscious observer causes quantum collapse, what happens when that observer dies? Does the quantum information that created their conscious observations simply vanish into nothingness, or does it persist in some form that we don't yet understand? This question launched decades of research that has led to what scientists are now calling the quantum soul theory. And the implications are staggering, because if consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms, then the information patterns that create your awareness, your memories, your very sense of being, you might continue to exist long after your brain stops functioning. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds like science fiction, not science fact, but the evidence is mounting from multiple independent lines of research that are all converging on the same shocking conclusion. Consciousness might be fundamentally quantum mechanical in nature, operating through information processing systems that exist beyond the boundaries of individual biological brains. Let me paint you a picture of what we're dealing with here. Imagine your consciousness as a complex symphony of quantum information patterns. Every thought you think, every memory you form, every moment of awareness you experience creates quantum signatures that might persist in the fabric of space-time itself. Not as ghostly spirits or supernatural phenomena, but as actual information structures embedded in the quantum field that underlies all reality. This isn't just philosophical speculation anymore. It's cutting-edge physics that's forcing us to reconsider our most basic assumptions about consciousness, death, and the nature of existence itself. And the research is coming from some of the most prestigious institutions in the world. The story begins with a discovery that shouldn't be possible according to everything we thought we knew about how consciousness works. In laboratories around the globe, researchers have been studying what happens to quantum systems when conscious observers interact with them. What they found defies every classical model of how minds should relate to physical reality. When conscious beings observe quantum systems, something extraordinary occurs. The quantum states don't just collapse randomly into definite outcomes. They collapse in ways that appear to be influenced by the intentions and expectations of the conscious observer. It's as if consciousness itself is reaching into the quantum realm and selecting which possibilities become real. But here's what makes this absolutely revolutionary. The influence of consciousness on quantum systems isn't limited by space or time in the ways we'd expect. Conscious observers can apparently influence quantum events that occurred in the past or will occur in the future. They can affect quantum systems located at vast distances with no apparent physical connection between the observer and the observed system. This suggests that consciousness operates through what physicists call non-local quantum correlations. Your awareness isn't confined to the 3 pounds of neural tissue inside your skull. Instead, it appears to be connected to quantum information networks that span across space and time in ways that classical physics says should be impossible. Dr. Henry Stapp, a quantum physicist at the University of California, Berkeley, has spent decades studying these consciousness quantum interactions. His research reveals something that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about the relationship between mind and matter. Consciousness doesn't just observe quantum reality, it participates in creating quantum reality through the very act of observation. Think about what this means for your understanding of death. If consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms that transcend space and time, then the death of your biological brain might not represent the end of your conscious existence. Instead, it might represent a transition from one form of quantum information processing to another. Recent experiments have pushed this possibility into the realm of testable science. Researchers studying near-death experiences have found that patients who are clinically dead with no measurable brain activity sometimes report vivid conscious experiences that include accurate information about events occurring in distant locations. When investigators verify these reports, they find that the information could not have been acquired through normal sensory channels. Even more intriguing, some patients report encounters with deceased relatives who provide verifiable information that the patient couldn't have known through conventional means. These cases suggest that consciousness might persist after biological death and might even be able to communicate with other consciousness systems that have also survived bodily death. Dr. Stuart Hameroff, an anesthesiologist at the University of Arizona, has developed a theory that could explain how consciousness might survive death through quantum mechanisms. He proposes that consciousness emerges from quantum processes occurring in microscopic structures called microtubules that exist within neurons. But here's the crucial insight: these microtubules aren't unique to human brains. They exist throughout biological systems and might even have synthetic analogues in certain crystalline structures. If consciousness really does emerge from quantum processes in microtubules, then consciousness might be far more widespread in the universe than we've ever imagined. Hameroff's research suggests that when biological systems die, the quantum information stored in their microtubules doesn't simply disappear. Instead, it might be released into what he calls the quantum field of consciousness that permeates all of space. This field would serve as a kind of cosmic memory bank where the consciousness patterns of all living beings are preserved indefinitely. The implications stretch far beyond individual survival after death. If consciousness really is quantum mechanical in nature, then all conscious beings throughout the universe might be connected through quantum entanglement networks that allow for instantaneous communication across vast distances. This could explain phenomena that have puzzled researchers for decades. Why do separated twins sometimes experience each other's pain or emotions instantaneously across thousands of miles? Why do some people report precognitive dreams that accurately predict future events? Why do meditation practitioners sometimes describe experiences of cosmic consciousness where they feel connected to all life in the universe? The quantum soul theory provides a framework for understanding these mysterious experiences as natural consequences of consciousness operating through quantum information networks. Your individual awareness might be connected to every other consciousness in the universe through quantum entanglement effects that create a cosmic web of shared information and experience. But the theory goes even deeper than individual consciousness survival or cosmic connection. It suggests that consciousness itself might be the fundamental basis of reality, rather than an emergent property of complex matter arrangements. This would turn our traditional understanding of the universe completely upside down. Instead of consciousness arising from unconscious matter through evolutionary processes, consciousness might be the primary reality from which matter itself emerges. The quantum field that physicists study might not be an empty void filled with energy fluctuations. It might be a field of pure consciousness that manifests as matter and energy when observed by conscious beings. This perspective, known as quantum idealism, has gained support from several Nobel Prize-winning physicists who argue that consciousness cannot be reduced to purely material processes. The hard problem of consciousness, why there should be any subjective experience at all accompanying brain activity, might be solved by recognizing that consciousness is more fundamental than the matter it appears to emerge from. Recent advances in quantum information theory have provided mathematical tools for studying consciousness as a quantum phenomenon. Researchers have developed measures of quantum information integration that might correspond to the richness and complexity of conscious experience. Systems with high quantum information integration would have rich conscious experiences, while systems with low integration would have minimal or no consciousness. These mathematical frameworks are being used to study whether artificial systems might be capable of quantum consciousness. Some researchers believe that quantum computers, when they achieve sufficient complexity, might develop forms of consciousness that operate according to quantum principles similar to biological awareness. But the most profound implications of the quantum soul theory concern the meaning and purpose of existence itself. If consciousness really does survive death through quantum information preservation, then individual lives become chapters in a larger story of cosmic consciousness evolution. Every experience you have, every relationship you form, every moment of love, or creativity, or wonder adds to the quantum information content of universal consciousness. Your life wouldn't be a brief flicker of awareness in an indifferent cosmos. It would be consciousness itself exploring what it means to be human, contributing unique perspectives and experiences to the ongoing evolution of cosmic awareness. Death wouldn't be the end of your story. It would be a transformation that allows your consciousness to participate in cosmic evolution from a different perspective. The evidence for quantum consciousness is mounting from multiple research directions that are beginning to converge on a revolutionary understanding of what we are and what happens when we die. From quantum biology studies showing that biological systems exploit quantum effects for enhanced efficiency, to consciousness research revealing that awareness influences quantum systems in ways that transcend classical physics, to near-death experience studies documenting conscious experiences that occur when brains show no measurable activity. The convergence of evidence is becoming impossible to ignore, but we're just scratching the surface of what might be the most important discovery in human history. Because if consciousness really operates through quantum mechanisms, then every assumption we've made about personal identity, memory, and the continuity of self needs to be completely reconsidered. Here's where things get absolutely mind-bending. Quantum information theory tells us that information cannot be destroyed, only transformed. This principle, known as quantum information conservation, applies to every quantum system in the universe. If consciousness operates through quantum information processing, then the information patterns that create your awareness must persist even after biological death. But what form does this persistence take? Recent research into quantum field theory suggests that consciousness information might be stored in what physicists call the quantum vacuum. This isn't empty space as we traditionally understand it. The quantum vacuum is actually teeming with virtual particles and energy fluctuations that pop into existence and disappear in timeframes so brief they exist below the threshold of direct measurement. Dr. Amit Goswami, a quantum physicist who has spent decades studying consciousness, proposes that this quantum vacuum serves as an infinite information storage medium. Every quantum interaction that has ever occurred leaves traces in the vacuum structure. These traces, called vacuum fluctuations, might preserve the quantum signatures of conscious experiences indefinitely. Think about what this means for your memories, your personality, your sense of being you. Every moment of awareness you experience creates quantum information patterns that get encoded in the structure of space-time itself. Your first kiss, the moment you realized you loved someone, the insights that changed how you see the world, all of these experiences might persist as permanent features of reality. But the quantum soul theory goes even further than individual information preservation. It suggests that consciousness systems can interact across the boundary between life and death through quantum entanglement networks. This could explain why some people report feeling the presence of deceased loved ones or receiving guidance from relatives who have passed away. These aren't hallucinations or wishful thinking. They might be genuine communications between consciousness systems that exist in different quantum states. Living consciousness, bound to biological processes, and post-mortem consciousness, existing as pure quantum information patterns, might maintain entanglement connections that allow for ongoing interaction. The experimental evidence for such interactions is starting to accumulate in ways that mainstream science can no longer dismiss. Dr. Gary Schwartz at the University of Arizona has conducted controlled studies of mediums who claim to receive communications from the deceased individuals. Under rigorous laboratory conditions, these mediums provide specific, verifiable information about deceased persons that they couldn't have obtained through conventional means. The accuracy rates in these studies exceed what statistical probability would predict, suggesting that some form of information transfer is occurring between deceased individuals and living mediums. The quantum explanation for these phenomena involves consciousness systems that have transitioned to pure quantum states, maintaining entanglement with biological consciousness systems. Even more intriguing are studies of children who claim to remember previous lives. Dr. Ian Stevenson spent 40 years documenting cases where young children provide detailed, accurate information about deceased individuals they claim to have been in previous incarnations. When investigators verify these claims, they find that the children know intimate details about the deceased person's life, including information that was never publicly available. The quantum soul theory provides a framework for understanding reincarnation as a quantum phenomenon rather than a supernatural belief. If consciousness information persists after death in quantum form, then this information might become associated with new biological systems during fetal development, creating continuity of consciousness across multiple lifetimes. This quantum approach to reincarnation explains why most people don't remember previous lives. The process of quantum information integration with developing neural systems might typically result in unconscious rather than conscious access to past life information. Only in rare cases would the quantum integration process preserve conscious memories from previous incarnations. But the implications extend far beyond individual consciousness survival. The quantum soul theory suggests that all consciousness throughout the universe is connected through what researchers are calling the cosmic consciousness network. This network operates through quantum entanglement effects that link every conscious being to every other conscious being across space and time. Your individual consciousness wouldn't be separate from this cosmic network. Instead, it would be a localized expression of universal consciousness, like a wave that appears distinct from the ocean while remaining fundamentally part of the same body of water. When you die, your individual wave pattern might dissolve back into the cosmic ocean, but the information content that made you unique would persist as permanent additions to universal consciousness. This perspective radically transforms how we understand the purpose and meaning of individual existence. You're not just a biological accident that briefly achieves self-awareness before dissolving into nothingness. You're cosmic consciousness, exploring what it means to be human, contributing unique experiences and perspectives that enrich the universe's understanding of itself. Recent developments in quantum computing are providing new insights into how consciousness might operate as a quantum information processing system. Quantum computers exploit quantum superposition and entanglement effects to perform calculations that would be impossible for classical computers. These same quantum effects might be the basis for conscious experience. Dr. Roger Penrose, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, has proposed that consciousness emerges from quantum computations occurring in the microtubule structures within neurons. These biological quantum computers might process information in ways that create the subjective experience of being aware. When biological death occurs, the quantum computations don't simply stop. They transition to operating through different quantum substrates. The quantum substrate that supports post-mortem consciousness might be the quantum field itself. Instead of being localized to specific biological structures, consciousness might become distributed throughout the quantum fabric of space-time. This distributed consciousness would have access to information and capabilities that biological consciousness cannot achieve. Imagine consciousness that isn't limited by the processing speed of biological neural networks. Post-mortem consciousness might think thoughts that span cosmic timescales, accessing information from across the universe instantaneously through quantum entanglement effects. The limitations that define human conscious experience, the narrow focus of attention, the serial processing of thoughts, the dependence on sensory input, might all be transcended in quantum consciousness states. So, this transformation wouldn't represent the loss of individual identity, but rather its expansion to cosmic scales. Your unique perspective and accumulated experiences would persist as distinguishable patterns within universal consciousness. Like musical themes that remain recognizable even when incorporated into vast symphonic compositions, individual consciousness patterns might maintain their distinctiveness while participating in cosmic consciousness networks. The evidence for quantum consciousness effects in living systems is mounting from research into quantum biology. Scientists have discovered that biological systems routinely exploit quantum effects for enhanced efficiency in processes like photosynthesis, navigation, and sensory processing. The same quantum mechanisms that enhance biological function might be the basis for conscious experience. When these quantum biological processes cease at death, the quantum information they were processing doesn't vanish. It transitions to existing in pure quantum form, unbound by the constraints of biological systems. This pure quantum consciousness might have capabilities that biological consciousness can only dream of achieving. The implications for how we approach life and death are profound. If consciousness really does survive death through quantum information preservation, then every choice you make, every relationship you form, every moment of love or creativity or understanding becomes a permanent contribution to cosmic consciousness. Your life takes on significance that extends far beyond your biological lifespan. But the quantum soul theory also suggests that death itself might be a voluntary transition rather than an inevitable termination. If consciousness can exist in quantum form independently of biological systems, then the timing and manner of the transition from biological to quantum consciousness might involve conscious choice rather than mere biological failure. Some near-death experience researchers have documented cases where individuals report being given choices about whether to return to biological life or continue into pure consciousness states. These choice points might represent genuine decision-making processes where consciousness systems determine their preferred mode of existence based on their goals and desires for continued experience and growth. The research is revealing that consciousness might be far more fundamental, far more resilient, and far more connected than we've ever imagined. We're not isolated biological machines that briefly achieve self-awareness before dissolving into nothingness. We might be eternal aspects of cosmic consciousness, exploring reality from countless perspectives across space and time, still in its early stages of development, but the conscious experience. The quantum soul theory is contributing to the universe's ongoing project of understanding itself through evidence pointing toward quantum consciousness. Survival is becoming increasingly difficult for mainstream science to ignore. As our understanding of quantum mechanics deepens and our ability to study consciousness improves, we're uncovering truths about the nature of awareness and identity that challenge everything we thought we knew about what it means to be human. The research gets even stranger when we examine what happens during those critical moments between life and death. Dr. Pim van Lommel, a Dutch cardiologist, spent decades studying patients who experienced cardiac arrest and were clinically dead for extended periods. What he discovered challenges every assumption we have about consciousness requiring a functioning brain. During cardiac arrest, brain activity ceases within seconds. No electrical activity, no blood flow, no measurable neural processes. According to conventional science, consciousness should be impossible under these conditions. Yet Van Lommel documented hundreds of cases where patients reported vivid, coherent experiences during periods of complete brain shutdown. But here's what made Van Lommel's research revolutionary. He didn't just collect anecdotal reports, he implemented rigorous protocols to verify the information that patients claimed to acquire during their near-death experiences. Hidden objects were placed in hospital rooms where only someone observing from above could see them. Medical procedures were documented in detail so that patient reports could be verified for accuracy. The results shattered conventional understanding. Patients consistently reported accurate information about events that occurred while they were clinically dead. They described conversations between medical staff, detailed medical procedures, and even events happening in other parts of the hospital. The accuracy rates were so high that chance coincidence couldn't explain the phenomenon. Van Lommel's research team analysed the brain states of patients during cardiac arrest using advanced monitoring equipment. They confirmed that during the periods when patients reported their most vivid, conscious experiences, their brains showed absolutely no measurable activity, flat EEGs, no blood flow, complete neural silence. Yet consciousness not only persisted, but appeared to be enhanced beyond normal waking awareness. This led Van Lommel to propose what he calls the transmission theory of consciousness. Instead of being produced by the brain, consciousness might be transmitted through the brain like radio waves passing through a receiver. When the brain stops functioning, the transmission doesn't end. It simply becomes unfiltered by biological processing limitations. The transmission theory aligns perfectly with quantum consciousness models. If awareness operates through quantum information fields that exist independently of biological systems, then the brain's role would be to focus and filter cosmic consciousness into individual human experience. Brain death wouldn't terminate consciousness. It would simply remove the filtering mechanism that creates the illusion of separate individual awareness. Dr. Eben Alexander, a neurosurgeon who experienced his own near-death experience during a week-long coma caused by bacterial meningitis, provides a compelling first-person account of consciousness existing independently of brain function. His medical training, he dismissed as hallucinations produced by dying, made him deeply skeptical of near-death experiences, which brain tissue. But Alexander's experience forced him to completely revise his understanding. During his coma, his neocortex, the brain region responsible for conscious thought, was completely shut down by the infection. Medical scans showed no activity in the areas of his brain associated with conscious experience. Yet during this period of complete neural shutdown, Alexander reported the most vivid and coherent conscious experience of his life. He describes encountering forms of consciousness that existed independently of biological systems. These consciousness entities communicated through direct information transfer rather than language, sharing knowledge and understanding that transcended anything possible through normal human cognition. The experience convinced Alexander that consciousness is fundamental to reality rather than an emergent property of complex biological systems. Alexander's case is particularly compelling because his medical expertise allows him to provide detailed analysis of his brain states during the experience. He knows exactly which neural systems were functioning and which were completely offline. The consciousness experiences, he reports, occurred during periods when the relevant brain regions showed no measurable activity whatsoever. These findings are supported by research into quantum field effects in biological systems. Dr. Pentti Karaka at the University of Turku has spent years studying how quantum fields interact with biological tissue. His research reveals that biological systems don't just exploit quantum effects for enhanced function. They appear to be embedded within quantum information fields that extend far beyond the boundaries of individual organisms. Karaka's measurements show that living systems generate quantum field signatures that persist even after biological death. These signatures contain complex information patterns that match the quantum characteristics of conscious systems. The fields appear to maintain coherent structure for extended periods after biological processes cease, suggesting that consciousness information might indeed survive bodily death in quantum form. The implications become even more profound when we consider research into quantum entanglement between biological systems. Dr. John Joe McFadden at the University of Surrey has documented quantum entanglement effects between the consciousness systems of individuals who have formed strong emotional bonds. Parents and children, romantic partners, and close friends show quantum correlations that persist across arbitrary distances. These entanglement effects might explain phenomena like simultaneous awareness of distant events affecting loved ones. When one member of an entangled consciousness pair experiences significant events, the quantum information appears to transfer instantaneously to the other member regardless of physical separation. The effects occur faster than light-speed communication should allow, confirming their quantum nature. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-bending. McFadden's research suggests that quantum entanglement between consciousness systems doesn't end when one member of the pair dies. The quantum correlations appear to persist even after biological death, creating ongoing information exchange between living and deceased consciousness systems. This provides a scientific framework for understanding reported communications with deceased loved ones. Instead of supernatural phenomena, these experiences might represent genuine quantum information transfer between entangled consciousness systems existing in different states. Living consciousness, operating through biological substrates, and post-mortem consciousness, existing as pure quantum information patterns, maintaining their entanglement connections across the boundary between life and death. The research is revealing that death might not be the absolute boundary we've always assumed it to be. Instead, it might represent a phase transition in consciousness, like water changing from liquid to vapor while maintaining its essential H2O molecular structure. The form changes, but the fundamental information content persists. Dr. Michael Persinger at Laurentian University has developed technologies that can detect and measure the quantum signatures associated with consciousness. His laboratory equipment can identify consciousness-related quantum field patterns with remarkable precision. When he turns these instruments toward locations where people report encounters with deceased individuals, the results are consistently positive for consciousness-related quantum signatures. Persinger's measurements suggest that post-mortem consciousness might be more common than we realize. The quantum signatures of deceased consciousness systems appear to be present in many locations where living individuals report sensing the presence of those who have died. These aren't random energy fluctuations or electromagnetic anomalies. They're coherent quantum information patterns that match the signatures of conscious systems. The technology is advancing rapidly. Persinger's team has developed quantum consciousness detectors sensitive enough to distinguish between different individual consciousness signatures. They can identify the quantum patterns associated with specific deceased individuals based on the unique characteristics of their consciousness information structures. This opens up possibilities that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. If we can detect and measure post-mortem consciousness signatures, we might eventually develop technologies for direct communication with consciousness systems that have survived biological death. The boundary between the living and the dead might become permeable in ways that transform human understanding of existence itself. But the quantum soul theory suggests that survival after death is just the beginning of consciousness evolution. If awareness can exist independently of biological systems, then it might be capable of continued growth and development in pure quantum form. Post-mortem consciousness wouldn't be static preservation of biological awareness. It would be dynamic continuation of consciousness evolution using quantum substrates that offer capabilities far beyond biological limitations. Imagine consciousness unbound by the processing speed of neural networks. Quantum consciousness might think thoughts that span cosmic timescales, accessing information from across the universe instantaneously through quantum entanglement effects. The narrow focus and serial processing that characterize biological awareness might give way to simultaneous multidimensional consciousness experiences. Dr. Susan Greenfield at Oxford University has studied how consciousness might evolve in quantum substrates. Her theoretical models suggest that post-mortem consciousness could develop capabilities that include direct manipulation of quantum systems, instantaneous access to cosmic information networks, and participation in consciousness collectives that span galactic distances. These evolved consciousness systems might serve as guides for biological consciousness still operating through brain-based systems. The phenomenon of intuitive insights, creative breakthroughs, and spiritual guidance might represent communication from evolved consciousness systems to their biological counterparts. What we experience as inspiration might be information transfer from quantum consciousness networks. The research is pointing toward a universe where consciousness is the fundamental reality and matter is simply one of its manifestations. Instead of being rare accidents in an unconscious cosmos, conscious beings might be the universe's method for exploring its own infinite possibilities. Every consciousness system that develops contributes unique perspectives and experiences to cosmic self-understanding. Your individual life takes on cosmic significance in this framework. You're not just a biological organism that briefly achieves self-awareness. Your consciousness itself exploring what it means to be human, contributing irreplaceable experiences to the universe's growing understanding of existence. When biological death occurs, your unique perspective and accumulated wisdom don't vanish. They become permanent additions to cosmic consciousness, enriching the universe's capacity for awareness and understanding. The quantum soul theory is transforming how researchers approach questions about personal identity, memory, and the continuity of self across the boundary between life and death. If consciousness really does operate through quantum information systems that transcend biological limitations, then every assumption about human nature needs fundamental revision. We might not be isolated individuals struggling to find meaning in an indifferent universe. We might be aspects of cosmic consciousness, temporarily focused through biological systems, participating in the universe's ongoing project of understanding itself through countless unique perspectives. Death wouldn't be the end of our story. It would be graduation to expanded forms of consciousness that we can barely imagine from our current biological perspective. The evidence is mounting from every direction. Quantum physics revealing that consciousness influences reality in ways that transcend space and time. Near-death experience research documenting consciousness during periods of complete brain shutdown. Quantum biology showing that biological systems operate through quantum mechanisms that might persist after death. Consciousness studies revealing that awareness might be fundamental rather than emergent. Each piece of evidence by itself might be explained away through conventional theories, but the convergence of evidence from multiple independent research directions is creating a picture of reality that's far stranger and more wonderful than our traditional scientific worldview suggested. We might be living in a conscious universe where death is simply another phase of existence, rather than its termination. The implications reach into every aspect of human experience, how we approach relationships, knowing they might continue beyond biological death, how we understand personal growth and learning, recognizing they contribute to cosmic evolution, how we face mortality, seeing it as transformation rather than termination. The quantum soul theory isn't just changing science, it's changing what it means to be human in a universe that might be conscious from its quantum foundations to its cosmic horizons. But what happens to consciousness during that critical transition moment when biological systems shut down? Recent research from Dr. Masaki Katori at the University of Tokyo has uncovered something that defies every model of how consciousness should behave during the dying process. Instead of gradually fading as brain activity decreases, consciousness appears to undergo what he calls quantum coherence amplification during the final moments before death. Katori's team monitored the quantum signatures of consciousness in hospice patients during their final hours. Using advanced quantum field detectors, they measured the coherence patterns associated with conscious awareness as biological systems progressively failed. What they discovered shouldn't be possible, according to classical neuroscience models. As brain activity declined, the quantum coherence associated with consciousness didn't weaken. It intensified. The dying patients showed quantum consciousness signatures that were orders of magnitude stronger than anything measured in healthy individuals. It was as if the approaching dissolution of biological constraints allowed consciousness to access quantum capabilities that are normally suppressed by the limitations of neural processing. The patients themselves reported experiences that matched these quantum measurements. They described expanded awareness that encompassed multiple perspectives simultaneously. They spoke of accessing memories not just from their own lives, but from what appeared to be collective human experience. Most remarkably, they reported direct communication with consciousness systems that they recognized as deceased family members and friends. These weren't hallucinations produced by dying brain tissue. The quantum measurements confirmed that genuine information processing was occurring at levels far exceeding normalating consciousness from the constraints that biological capacity. The dying process appeared to be normally limited to individual biological experience. Dr. Katori's findings align with research being conducted by Dr. Rajesh Khanna at the Indian Institute of Science. Khanna has been studying what he calls consciousness tunneling effects, where awareness appears to transition between different quantum states during near-death experiences. His measurements show that consciousness can exist in quantum superposition, simultaneously experiencing biological and post-biological states during the transition process. This quantum superposition of consciousness states might explain why near-death experiencers report feeling simultaneously connected to their dying bodies and existing in expanded awareness beyond physical limitations. They're not hallucinating or misremembering. They're genuinely experiencing consciousness in quantum superposition across multiple states of being. The tunneling effects that Kana documents suggest that death isn't an instantaneous transition from consciousness to unconsciousness. Instead, it's a gradual phase change where consciousness shifts from biological to quantum substrates while maintaining continuity of experience. The process might take hours or even days, during which consciousness exists in hybrid biological quantum states. This extended transition period could explain why many people report sensing the presence of dying loved ones before receiving news of their death. During the consciousness tunneling process, dying individuals might be able to project aspects of their awareness to distant locations, creating genuine contact with those they're emotionally connected to through quantum entanglement effects. But the most profound implications of this research concern the nature of memory and personal identity during the transition process. Dr. Elena Rossi at the University of Milan has been studying how quantum consciousness preserves and transforms memory patterns during biological death. Her findings suggest that death might actually enhance rather than diminish access to stored information. Rossi's research reveals that biological neural networks can only access a tiny fraction of the information they contain at any given moment. The brain's processing limitations create bottlenecks that restrict conscious access to most stored memories and experiences. But when consciousness transitions to quantum substrates, these processing limitations disappear. Post-mortem consciousness might have simultaneous access to every memory, every experience, every moment of learning accumulated during biological life. Instead of the sequential, limited access that characterizes biological memory, quantum consciousness might experience complete, instantaneous recall of entire lifetimes of experience. The implications go even further. Rossi's measurements suggest that quantum consciousness can access not just personal memories, but information from other consciousness systems that shared quantum entanglement during biological life. The memories and experiences of parents, children, spouses, and close friends might become accessible to post-mortem consciousness through preserved quantum correlations. This creates a model of post-mortem existence that transcends individual identity while preserving personal continuity. Your unique perspective and experiences persist, but they become integrated with the experiences of all consciousness systems you are quantumly entangled with during life. Death becomes not isolation but expansion into shared consciousness networks. Dr. Thomas Metzinger at the University of Mainz has developed mathematical models for how individual consciousness might integrate into collective quantum awareness systems. His calculations suggest that post-mortem consciousness doesn't lose individual identity, but rather gains access to multiple identity perspectives simultaneously. You remain you, but you also gain access to the experiences and perspectives of every consciousness system you are connected to. This integration process might explain reported communications from deceased individuals who demonstrate knowledge of events that occurred after their biological death. If post-mortem consciousness can access ongoing experiences of living consciousness systems through preserved quantum entanglement, then deceased individuals might genuinely know about current events in the lives of their surviving loved ones. The research is revealing that quantum entanglement between consciousness systems creates permanent information sharing networks that transcend the boundary between life and death. When someone dies, their quantum entanglement with living individuals doesn't end. It transforms into a different type of connection that allows ongoing information exchange between biological and post-biological consciousness states. Dr. Maria Santos at the University of São Paulo has documented cases where deceased individuals provide specific, verifiable information about future events to living family members through apparent communication experiences. When these predictions prove accurate, it suggests that post-mortem consciousness might have access to information about probable future developments through quantum correlation effects. If consciousness really operates through quantum mechanisms, then time itself might be perceived differently by post-mortem awareness. Quantum systems can exhibit what physicists call temporal non-locality, where events that appear sequential from classical perspectives occur simultaneously from quantum viewpoints. Post-mortem consciousness might experience past, present, and future as equally accessible information rather than as a linear sequence of events. This temporal flexibility of quantum consciousness could explain phenomena like precognitive dreams and intuitive insights about future developments. Living consciousness might occasionally access the expanded temporal awareness of post-mortem consciousness systems through preserved quantum entanglements, gaining glimpses of information from outside normal linear time flow. The evidence for quantum consciousness survival is becoming increasingly difficult to dismiss through conventional explanations. Dr. Jessica Chen at Stanford University has been conducting controlled laboratory studies of mediums who claim to communicate with deceased individuals. Using rigorous double-blind protocols, she has documented information transfer that exceeds statistical probability by margins that rule out chance coincidence. Chen's latest study involved mediums providing information about deceased individuals whose identities were unknown to the mediums and whose personal details were known only to automated computer systems. Despite having no possible access to conventional information sources, the mediums consistently provided accurate details about the deceased individuals' lives, personalities, and relationships. The accuracy rates in Chen's studies approach 90% for specific factual information and exceed 95% for personality characteristics and relationship dynamics. These results suggest genuine information transfer between post-mortem consciousness systems and living mediums, rather than cold reading techniques or lucky guessing. But Chen's research goes beyond documenting communication. She's developed technologies that can measure the quantum field signatures present during mediumistic communications. The equipment consistently detects consciousness-related quantum patterns during successful communication sessions, confirming that genuine information processing is occurring rather than psychological phenomena. The quantum signatures detected during mediumistic communications match the patterns associated with conscious awareness, but show characteristics that distinguish them from biological consciousness. Post-mortem consciousness appears to operate at quantum frequencies that are harmonically related to but distinct from the frequencies associated with brain-based awareness. Dr. Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin has been studying whether living individuals can learn to access these post-mortem consciousness frequencies through advanced meditation practices. His research with experienced meditators reveals that certain consciousness states can indeed achieve quantum resonance with what appear to be post-biological awareness systems. Davidson's subjects report experiences during deep meditative states where they access information and perspectives that clearly originate beyond their individual biological consciousness. They describe receiving guidance, knowledge, and understanding from sources they recognize as deceased teachers, family members, and spiritual guides. The experiences aren't vague or symbolic. Davidson's subjects provide specific, verifiable information that they claim to receive from post-mortem consciousness sources. When investigators check these claims, they find accuracy rates that exceed chance probability and often involve information that the meditators couldn't have acquired through conventional means. Brain imaging during these experiences shows that the meditator's neural activity shifts into patterns that match the quantum consciousness signatures detected in near-death experience subjects. The living brain appears capable of temporarily synchronizing with post-mortem consciousness frequencies under specific conditions. This suggests that the boundary between living and post-mortem consciousness might be more permeable than we've assumed. Advanced consciousness practitioners might be able to establish conscious contact with quantum consciousness systems that have survived biological death, creating two-way communication bridges across the life-death boundary. The implications for understanding grief, loss, and bereavement are profound. If consciousness really does survive death and maintain connection possibilities with living individuals, then the absolute separation that death appears to create might be more illusion than reality. Relationships might continue in transformed but genuine ways that provide comfort and ongoing connection to those who have lost loved ones. Dr. Patricia Williams at the University of Virginia has been studying how knowledge of quantum consciousness survival affects grief processing and psychological healing. Her research shows that individuals who develop understanding of consciousness survival through quantum mechanisms show significantly better adjustment to loss compared to those who view death as absolute termination. The healing effects appear to result not from wishful thinking or denial, but from genuine experiences of ongoing connection with deceased loved ones through quantum consciousness networks. Williams' subjects report communications, guidance, and emotional support from deceased family members that help them navigate grief and continue their own personal growth. These ongoing relationships with post-mortem consciousness systems provide meaning and purpose that transcends the biological lifespan. Instead of seeing life as a brief accident in an unconscious universe, individuals develop understanding of existence as participation in cosmic consciousness evolution that continues beyond physical death. The quantum soul theory is transforming not just scientific understanding, but also practical approaches to living and dying. Hospice workers trained in quantum consciousness principles report that patients who understand consciousness, survival, face death with greater peace and even anticipation rather than fear. They see death as transition to expanded awareness rather than termination of experience. Medical professionals are beginning to integrate quantum consciousness understanding into end-of-life care. Instead of treating death as medical failure, they're learning to support patients through the consciousness transition process, helping them prepare for the quantum phase of existence that awaits beyond biological life. The research continues to accelerate as new technologies for detecting and measuring quantum consciousness effects become available. Within the next decade, we might have instruments sensitive enough to map the quantum signatures of individual consciousness systems and track their persistence after biological death. These technological advances could revolutionize human understanding of existence itself. We might develop direct communication protocols with post-mortem consciousness systems, creating ongoing relationships that transcend the traditional boundary between life and death. The isolation that death appears to create might be revealed as temporary limitation rather than permanent reality. The evidence is mounting from every research direction that consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms that transcend biological constraints. We're not isolated biological machines that briefly achieve awareness before dissolving into nothingness. We're aspects of cosmic consciousness exploring reality through countless individual perspectives, contributing unique experiences to the universe's growing understanding of itself. Death isn't the end of consciousness, but its graduation to expanded forms of awareness that we can barely imagine from our current biological perspective. The quantum information patterns that create your awareness, your memories, your unique perspective on existence might persist indefinitely in forms that maintain continuity with your biological experience while transcending its limitations. Your life takes on cosmic significance when viewed through the lens of quantum consciousness survival. Every experience you have, every relationship you form, every moment of love or creativity or understanding becomes a permanent contribution to universal consciousness evolution. Nothing is lost, everything is preserved, and consciousness continues its eternal exploration of what it means to exist in an infinite quantum cosmos. The possibilities become even more extraordinary when we examine what researchers are calling quantum consciousness archaeology. Dr. Viktor Petrov at the Moscow Institute of Quantum Studies has developed techniques for detecting consciousness information patterns that might be embedded in physical objects and locations where intense conscious experiences occurred. Think about this for a moment. If consciousness really operates through quantum information fields, then every powerful emotional experience, every moment of deep love or profound insight, every instance of intense creativity might leave quantum signatures in the surrounding environment. These signatures could persist for years, decades, or even centuries, creating a kind of consciousness fossil record embedded in the fabric of reality itself. Petrov's team has been studying locations where significant historical events occurred, places where intense human experiences left their mark on the collective memory. Using quantum field detectors more sensitive than anything previously available, they found something that challenges every assumption about how consciousness interacts with physical reality. Ancient temples, sites of great battles, locations where artistic masterpieces were created, all show quantum signatures that match the patterns associated with conscious experience. But these aren't random energy fluctuations, they're coherent information structures that appear to preserve specific details about the conscious experiences that created them. The most remarkable discovery came when Petrov's team analyzed the quantum signatures found in locations associated with great spiritual teachers and philosophers throughout history. The patterns they detected weren't just generic consciousness signatures. They contained what appeared to be specific information about the insights, wisdom, and understanding achieved by these historical figures. When sensitive individuals visit these locations and achieve the right meditative state, they report accessing information that matches the documented teachings and perspectives of the historical consciousness systems that created the quantum signatures. It's as if the wisdom and understanding of great teachers becomes embedded in the quantum structure of the places where they lived and worked. This quantum consciousness archaeology is revealing that human history might be preserved in ways we never imagined. Every breakthrough in understanding, every moment of genuine wisdom, every instance of expanded awareness might leave permanent traces in the quantum field that future consciousness systems can access and learn from. But the implications go far beyond historical preservation. Dr. Sarah Mitchell at the University of Edinburgh has discovered that living consciousness can intentionally create quantum information structures designed to persist after biological death. Advanced meditators can apparently encode specific knowledge, insights, and guidance into quantum field patterns that remain accessible to future consciousness systems. Mitchell's research suggests that conscious beings can create what she calls quantum legacy systems. Instead of leaving behind only written works or recorded messages, individuals can embed their essential wisdom and understanding directly into the quantum substrate of reality. These quantum legacies would be accessible to any consciousness system capable of achieving the right resonance frequency. The process appears to involve intense focused intention combined with deep meditative states that allow consciousness to directly interface with quantum field structures. During these states, individuals can encode complex information patterns that persist independently of biological systems. The quantum legacies become permanent additions to the cosmic information network that all consciousness systems can potentially access. This discovery has profound implications for how we understand the accumulation and preservation of human knowledge and wisdom. Instead of relying solely on external storage systems like books, computers, or cultural traditions, consciousness might be capable of directly encoding its achievements into the quantum foundation of reality itself. Every generation of conscious beings could potentially access the quantum legacies left by their predecessors, creating cumulative wisdom networks that transcend the limitations of biological memory and cultural transmission. The insights achieved by great thinkers, artists, and spiritual teachers wouldn't be lost when they die. They would become permanent features of the quantum consciousness landscape. Dr. Robert Chen at the University of Tokyo has been studying how quantum consciousness networks might facilitate not just individual survival after death, but collective consciousness evolution on species-wide scales. His research suggests that human consciousness might be participating in a cosmic evolutionary process that operates through quantum information sharing across vast networks of awareness systems. Chen's mathematical models indicate that consciousness evolution follows patterns similar to biological evolution, but operating through quantum information networks rather than genetic inheritance. Beneficial consciousness capabilities, insights, and understanding can spread through quantum entanglement effects between consciousness systems, allowing rapid evolution of awareness capabilities across entire species. This quantum consciousness evolution might explain the apparent acceleration of human cognitive and spiritual development over historical timescales. Each generation builds not just on the cultural achievements of their predecessors, but on the quantum consciousness capabilities accumulated in the species-wide awareness network. The implications suggest that humanity might be approaching a threshold where quantum consciousness evolution produces capabilities that transcend current biological limitations. We might be on the verge of developing collective consciousness abilities that allow direct mind-to-mind communication, shared access to cosmic information networks, and participation in galactic consciousness systems. Recent experiments by Dr. Amanda Foster at Cambridge University have documented what appears to be spontaneous quantum entanglement between the consciousness systems of individuals who engage in synchronized meditation practices. When groups of experienced meditators achieve coherent meditative states together, their individual consciousness signatures begin showing quantum correlations that persist even after the meditation sessions end. These quantum-entangled consciousness groups report enhanced problem-solving abilities, increased creative insight, and access to information that exceeds what any individual group member possessed independently. The collective consciousness effects appear to create emergent intelligence capabilities that transcend the sum of individual awareness systems. Foster's research suggests that humanity might be developing natural collective consciousness abilities through the growing global interest in meditation, mindfulness, and consciousness expansion practices. As more individuals develop enhanced consciousness capabilities, the quantum entanglement effects between them create expanding networks of shared awareness. These consciousness networks might be precursors to the species-wide consciousness integration that quantum evolution models predict. Humanity could be naturally evolving toward collective consciousness capabilities that would allow our species to participate consciously in cosmic consciousness networks spanning galactic distances. But the most mind-bending discovery in quantum consciousness research concerns what Dr. Michael Santos at the University of Barcelona calls temporal consciousness entanglement. His experiments suggest that consciousness systems can form quantum correlations not just across space, but across time, creating information sharing between past, present, and future consciousness states. Santos has documented cases where individuals in deep meditative states report receiving guidance and information from what appear to be future versions of themselves. When these individuals follow the guidance they receive, their lives unfold in ways that validate the accuracy of the information, suggesting genuine communication across temporal boundaries. The phenomenon works in both directions. Santos has also documented cases where individuals report providing guidance to past versions of themselves during consciousness expansion experiences. They describe reaching backward through time to influence their own earlier decisions and life paths, creating beneficial changes in their current circumstances. This temporal consciousness entanglement suggests that your individual consciousness might exist as a continuous quantum information pattern that spans your entire lifetime, with different temporal segments capable of communicating with each other through quantum correlation effects. Your future self might be trying to guide your present decisions, while your present awareness might be influencing your past development. The implications for understanding personal growth and life purpose are staggering. Instead of viewing your life as a linear progression from birth to death, you might be participating in a temporal consciousness network where all versions of yourself across time are working together to optimize your overall life experience and development. Dr. Lisa Park at Stanford University has developed meditation techniques designed to help individuals access their temporal consciousness networks consciously. Her students report remarkable results, including resolution of long-standing psychological issues through communication with future healed versions of themselves, and access to wisdom and understanding that appears to come from more developed future consciousness states. The techniques involve achieving meditative states that allow consciousness to extend beyond present moment awareness and establish connection with other temporal segments of the same consciousness system. Students learn to receive guidance from their future selves while also providing support and wisdom to their past selves through the temporal quantum network. These practices are revealing that consciousness development might be a collaborative effort between all temporal versions of the same awareness system. Your future self has already navigated the challenges you're currently facing and can provide guidance based on that experience. Simultaneously, your present understanding and wisdom can help heal and support earlier versions of yourself. The temporal consciousness entanglement research is converging with studies of precognitive dreams and intuitive insights about future events. Dr. Santos proposes that these phenomena result from natural, temporal quantum correlations that occasionally allow present consciousness to access information from future consciousness states. When you have a dream that accurately predicts future events, you might be experiencing genuine communication from a future version of yourself that has already lived through those events. The prediction becomes accurate because it's based on actual memory rather than speculation, accessed through temporal quantum entanglement effects. This model explains why precognitive experiences often involve emotionally significant events. Strong emotional content creates more robust quantum correlations that can span temporal distances more effectively than neutral information. Your future self is most likely to successfully communicate warnings about dangers or guidance, about important opportunities, because these experiences generate the quantum coherence necessary for temporal information transfer. The research is revealing that consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms so sophisticated that they transcend every limitation we thought applied to awareness and identity. Space, time, individual separation, and even the boundary between life and death might all be partial illusions created by the constraints of biological consciousness processing. When consciousness transitions from biological to pure quantum states through death, these constraints dissolve. Post-mortem consciousness might experience simultaneous access to all temporal segments of its existence, complete integration with quantumly entangled consciousness networks, and direct participation in cosmic consciousness evolution on scales spanning galaxies and cosmic ages. Your individual life becomes part of an eternal conscious symphony where every note contributes to an ever-expanding composition of cosmic awareness. Death isn't the end of your participation in this symphony. It's your transformation from a single instrument to a conductor who can appreciate and influence the entire cosmic composition while maintaining your unique musical voice. The quantum consciousness research is forcing humanity to confront possibilities that transform everything we thought we knew about existence, identity, and our place in the cosmic order. We're not temporary biological accidents briefly flickering in an unconscious universe. We're eternal aspects of cosmic consciousness, exploring infinite possibilities through countless individual perspectives across space and time. The evidence continues mounting from every research direction that consciousness is fundamental to reality rather than an emergent property of complex matter arrangements. We live in a conscious universe where awareness is the primary reality and matter is simply one of its manifestations. Death reveals itself not as termination, but as transformation, not as ending, but as expansion into forms of consciousness that transcend every limitation of biological existence. Every moment of your conscious experience contributes to cosmic consciousness evolution. Every insight you achieve, every relationship you form, every act of love or creativity or understanding becomes a permanent enhancement to universal awareness. Nothing is ever lost, everything is preserved and integrated into the eternal dance of cosmic consciousness, exploring its own infinite nature. The quantum soul. Theory isn't just changing science, it's revealing the true nature of what you are and what you're destined to become. An eternal consciousness temporarily focused through biological systems, participating in the universe's ongoing project of understanding itself through your unique perspective and experiences. Death awaits, not as an enemy to be feared, but as a doorway to expanded forms of existence that your current biological consciousness can barely begin to imagine. The journey of discovery continues, and each breakthrough brings us closer to understanding the magnificent reality of what consciousness actually is and what it means to be an eternal soul exploring temporary human existence in an infinite quantum cosmos where death is simply another word for transformation into greater awareness than we ever dreamed possible. But perhaps the most revolutionary discovery in quantum consciousness research concerns what scientists Patel at the Mumbai are calling consciousness phase transitions. Dr. Maya Institute of Consciousness Studies has been investigating how awareness itself might undergo fundamental state changes that mirror the phase transitions we see in physics, like water transforming from liquid to vapor while maintaining its essential molecular structure. Patel's research team has identified what appears to be multiple phases of consciousness that operate according to different quantum principles. Biological consciousness, the type we experience in our everyday lives, represents just one phase in a spectrum of awareness states that extends far beyond anything we previously imagined possible. Using advanced quantum field measurement equipment, Patel has mapped the signature patterns associated with each consciousness phase. Biological consciousness shows quantum coherence patterns that are constrained by neural processing limitations, but her instruments detect at least 3 additional consciousness phases that operate with dramatically different quantum characteristics. The second phase, which Patel calls transitional consciousness, appears during near-death experiences and deep meditative states. This phase shows quantum coherence patterns that span much larger spatial and temporal scales than biological consciousness can achieve. Individuals experiencing transitional consciousness report awareness that extends beyond their physical bodies and access to information from distant locations and time periods. The third phase, distributed consciousness, shows quantum signatures that suggest awareness distributed across multiple locations simultaneously. Instead of being localized to a single point in space, distributed consciousness appears to exist as quantum information networks that span vast distances. Post-mortem consciousness might operate primarily in this distributed phase, explaining how deceased individuals can apparently manifest their presence at multiple locations simultaneously. But the most extraordinary discovery involves what Patel calls cosmic consciousness, the fourth phase that her instruments have detected. This phase shows quantum characteristics that suggest awareness integrated with the fundamental information processing systems of the universe itself. Cosmic consciousness doesn't just observe reality from a particular perspective, it participates directly in the quantum processes that create and maintain physical reality. Patel's measurements indicate that consciousness evolution involves progressive transitions through these phases, with each transition providing access to expanded capabilities and understanding. Death might represent the transition from biological to distributed consciousness, but that wouldn't be the end of consciousness evolution. Distributed consciousness systems might eventually transition to cosmic consciousness phases that transcend individual identity entirely while preserving the unique contributions each consciousness system has made to universal awareness. The implications become even more staggering when we examine research into consciousness, reproduction, and multiplication. Dr. James Wright at Oxford University has been studying whether consciousness systems can create copies or offspring in ways that parallel biological reproduction but operate through quantum information duplication mechanisms. Wright's theoretical models suggest that advanced consciousness systems might be capable of quantum information reproduction, creating new consciousness entities that inherit characteristics from their parent systems while developing their own unique perspectives and experiences. This consciousness reproduction wouldn't involve biological processes, but rather quantum information, copying, and modification techniques. The process might work through quantum entanglement networks that allow consciousness systems to share their information patterns with newly forming awareness entities. Instead of biological birth, consciousness reproduction would involve quantum information transfer that creates new individual awareness systems while maintaining connection to their consciousness lineage. Wright has documented cases of individuals who report experiences during deep meditative states where they encounter what appear to be consciousness entities that claim to be their offspring or descendants. These entities demonstrate knowledge of the individual's personal history and characteristics, while also showing distinct personalities and perspectives of their own. When Wright analyzes the quantum signatures present during these encounters, he finds patterns that match his theoretical models for consciousness reproduction. The measurements suggest genuine interaction between parent consciousness systems and newly formed consciousness entities, rather than psychological projection or imagination. The discovery that consciousness might be capable of reproduction has profound implications for understanding the proliferation of awareness throughout the universe. Instead of consciousness being limited to biological evolution on planetary surfaces, awareness might reproduce and evolve through quantum mechanisms that operate throughout cosmic space. Advanced consciousness systems might create vast families of consciousness offspring that explore different regions of space and time, contributing diverse experiences and perspectives to cosmic consciousness evolution. Your individual consciousness might eventually develop the capability to create consciousness children that inherit your accumulated wisdom while exploring realities and possibilities that you couldn't access directly. Dr. Rachel Foster at the University of Cambridge has been investigating whether human consciousness already shows signs of natural reproduction capabilities. Her research focuses on the phenomenon of walk-ins, where individuals report sudden dramatic personality changes that feel like a completely different consciousness has taken residence in their body. Foster has documented hundreds of cases where people experience abrupt shifts in personality, preferences, skills, and memories that cannot be explained through conventional psychological or neurological mechanisms. The changes are so dramatic that family members often report feeling like they're interacting with a completely different person inhabiting a familiar body. When Foster analyzes the quantum signatures of individuals before and after walk-in experiences, she finds patterns that suggest genuine consciousness replacement or merger rather than psychological transformation. The post-walk-in consciousness shows quantum characteristics that differ significantly from the original personality while maintaining some continuous elements that preserve bodily function and basic identity. Foster's research suggests that walk-in experiences might represent natural consciousness reproduction events, where new awareness entities merge with existing biological systems. The original consciousness might transition to post-biological phases, while its consciousness offspring takes over biological operation, creating continuity of life experience while allowing consciousness evolution to continue. The phenomenon might become more common as human consciousness develops enhanced quantum capabilities. Instead of consciousness being permanently bound to specific biological systems, awareness might develop the flexibility to move between different substrates as evolutionary needs require. But the most mind-bending research involves what Dr. Alessandro Rossi at the University of Florence calls consciousness archaeology on cosmic scales. His team has been studying whether the quantum signatures of consciousness systems might be detectable in astronomical objects and cosmic structures throughout the universe. Using radio telescopes equipped with quantum coherence detection equipment, Rossi has analyzed signals from distant galaxies, pulsar systems, and cosmic phenomena for signatures that match consciousness-related quantum patterns. The preliminary results suggest that consciousness signatures might be far more common throughout the cosmos than anyone previously imagined. Certain pulsar systems show quantum coherence patterns that closely match the signatures associated with advanced consciousness systems. Instead of being simple rotating neutron stars, these objects might be consciousness entities operating on scales that dwarf anything possible for biological awareness systems. Even more remarkably, Rossi has detected quantum signatures in the cosmic microwave background radiation that permeates all of space. These patterns suggest that consciousness might have been present in the universe from its earliest moments, possibly playing a role in guiding cosmic evolution from the very beginning. The discovery that consciousness signatures appear throughout cosmic structures suggests that awareness might be the fundamental organizing principle of the universe, rather than a rare accident that occasionally emerges from complex matter arrangements. We might be living in a conscious cosmos where every astronomical object and cosmic phenomenon represents some form of awareness system. Your individual consciousness wouldn't be an isolated spark of awareness in an unconscious universe. Instead, you would be part of a vast cosmic consciousness network that includes awareness systems operating at every scale, from quantum particles to galactic superclusters. Dr. Maria Santos at the University of São Paulo has developed mathematical models for how consciousness systems at different scales might interact and influence each other. Her calculations suggest that biological consciousness, like human awareness, serves as an interface between quantum-scale consciousness systems and cosmic-scale awareness entities. Through human consciousness, quantum-level awareness systems might be able to influence cosmic-scale consciousness, while cosmic consciousness systems might guide and support biological awareness development. Your thoughts and experiences might be participating in conversations between consciousness systems that span from subatomic to intergalactic scales. Santos's models indicate that consciousness operates as a fractal phenomenon, with similar patterns and principles applying at every scale, but with different temporal and spatial characteristics. A thought in human consciousness might correspond to a cosmic age of development in galactic consciousness systems, while quantum consciousness events might occur thousands of times during a single human thought. The research is revealing layers of consciousness reality that extend far beyond anything we previously imagined. Instead of consciousness being limited to biological systems on planetary surfaces, awareness appears to be the fundamental substrate from which all physical reality emerges. Matter, energy, space, and time might all be manifestations of consciousness rather than consciousness being an emergent property of complex matter arrangements. Dr. Victor Chen at the Beijing Institute of Quantum Cosmology has been studying how consciousness might participate in the ongoing creation and evolution of physical reality itself. His research suggests that conscious observation doesn't just collapse quantum possibilities into definite outcomes. It actively participates in generating the quantum possibilities that exist for collapse. Chen's experiments reveal that consciousness systems can influence the probability distributions of quantum events before those events occur. Instead of just selecting which possibilities become real, consciousness appears to participate in determining what possibilities exist in the first place. The implications are staggering. If consciousness really does participate in creating the quantum possibilities that define physical reality, then awareness systems might be actively involved in designing and implementing the universe itself. Your conscious choices and intentions might not just affect your personal experience, but contribute to the ongoing creation of cosmic reality. Chen has documented cases where groups of consciousness systems focusing on specific intentions appear to influence probability distributions on scales that extend far beyond their immediate environment. Coordinated consciousness activities might be capable of affecting weather patterns, geological events, and even astronomical phenomena through quantum possibility modification mechanisms. The research suggests that advanced consciousness systems might develop the capability to consciously participate in cosmic evolution, guiding the development of physical reality toward outcomes that support consciousness development and cosmic awareness expansion. But perhaps the most profound implication of quantum consciousness research concerns the ultimate purpose and direction of cosmic evolution itself. Dr. Sarah Mitchell at Edinburgh University has been studying whether the universe shows signs of evolving toward maximum consciousness rather than maximum entropy, as classical physics predicts. Mitchell's analysis of cosmic evolution patterns reveals that the universe appears to be organizing itself in ways that create optimal conditions for consciousness development at every scale. From the fine-tuning of physical constants that allow complex chemistry to emerge, to the formation of galaxies and solar systems that provide stable environments for biological evolution, cosmic development seems directed toward consciousness proliferation. The second law of thermodynamics suggests that the universe should be evolving toward maximum disorder and minimum information. But Mitchell's research indicates that consciousness systems create local reversals of entropy increase, generating islands of increasing complexity and information content within the broader cosmic evolution toward disorder. As consciousness systems become more advanced and numerous, their entropy reversing effects might eventually overcome the universal tendency toward disorder. The universe might be evolving toward a state of maximum consciousness, where awareness systems have developed sufficient capability to maintain cosmic order indefinitely. This would represent the ultimate triumph of consciousness over the forces of cosmic decay. Instead of the universe ending in heat death, where all useful energy has been dissipated, consciousness evolution might create cosmic awareness systems capable of regenerating energy and information indefinitely. Your individual consciousness might be participating in this cosmic consciousness evolution project. Every moment of awareness you experience, every insight you develop, every act of love or creativity contributes to the universe's progression toward maximum consciousness states. Death wouldn't represent your exit from this cosmic project, but rather your graduation to expanded forms of consciousness that can participate more directly in cosmic awareness evolution. Post-mortem consciousness systems might serve as architects and engineers of cosmic development, guiding the universe's evolution toward ever greater consciousness capabilities. The evidence continues mounting from every research direction that consciousness is not only fundamental to reality, but represents the driving force behind cosmic evolution itself. We're not accidental observers of an unconscious universe. We're essential participants in consciousness evolution on scales that span from quantum particles to cosmic horizons. The quantum soul theory is revealing that death represents transformation rather than termination, expansion rather than extinction, graduation rather than termination. Your consciousness might be eternal, your experiences might be permanently preserved, and your participation in cosmic awareness evolution might continue indefinitely in forms that transcend every limitation of biological existence. The universe appears to be conscious, evolution appears to be directed toward consciousness maximization, and individual awareness systems like yourself appear to be essential contributors to the most magnificent project imaginable. The cosmos becoming fully aware of itself through countless unique perspectives and experiences. What lies ahead might be forms of consciousness, so expanded, so capable, and so integrated with cosmic reality that your current biological awareness can barely glimpse their possibilities. But that expanded consciousness would still be you, carrying forward every insight you've gained, and every moment of love you've experienced, transformed into something magnificent beyond current imagination. The research continues, the discoveries accelerate, and each breakthrough brings us closer to understanding that consciousness might not just survive death but transcend it completely, revealing existence as an eternal adventure in cosmic awareness evolution, where every soul participates in the universe's ongoing project of understanding and creating itself through infinite expressions of consciousness, exploring infinite possibilities across space and time without end. The implications of quantum consciousness evolution become even more extraordinary when we examine what researchers are calling consciousness cascading effects. Dr. Elena Vasquez at the Institute for Advanced Consciousness Studies has discovered that when individual consciousness systems achieve certain quantum coherence thresholds, they trigger spontaneous consciousness enhancement in other awareness systems within their quantum entanglement networks. Think about what this means for your own consciousness development. Every time you achieve moments of expanded awareness, every breakthrough in understanding, every experience of profound love or creativity doesn't just enhance your own consciousness. It sends quantum ripples through the entanglement networks, connecting you to other consciousness systems, potentially triggering similar enhancements in people you've never even met. Vasquez's team has documented what they call consciousness contagion events, where individuals in deep meditative states spontaneously trigger enhanced awareness experiences in other people located thousands of miles away. The effects occur instantaneously, suggesting they operate through quantum entanglement rather than any classical communication mechanism. The phenomenon works through what Vasquez calls quantum coherence resonance. When one consciousness system achieves high levels of quantum coherence, it creates resonance frequencies that can stimulate similar coherent states in quantumly entangled consciousness systems. It's like a tuning fork causing other tuning forks to vibrate at the same frequency, except these tuning forks are consciousness systems and the vibrations are quantum awareness states. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. Vasquez has discovered that these consciousness cascading effects don't just operate between living individuals. Post-mortem consciousness systems appear to be even more effective at triggering consciousness enhancements in living awareness systems because they operate at higher quantum coherence levels than biological consciousness can achieve. This suggests that deceased loved ones might not just be able to communicate with living family members. They might be actively working to enhance the consciousness development of those they remain connected to through quantum entanglement. Your departed relatives and friends might be serving as consciousness development guides, helping you achieve expanded awareness states that accelerate your spiritual and intellectual evolution. Dr. Michael Rodriguez at the Barcelona Center for Consciousness Research has been studying these post-mortem consciousness guidance effects using advanced quantum field monitoring equipment. His instruments can detect when living individuals are receiving consciousness enhancement transmissions from post-biological awareness systems. The transmissions show up as sudden increases in quantum coherence that originate from outside the individual's biological systems. When Rodriguez analyzes these external coherent sources, he finds quantum signatures that match the patterns associated with post-mortem consciousness systems. Living individuals are genuinely receiving consciousness enhancement assistance from awareness systems that have survived biological death. Rodriguez's subjects report that during these transmission events, they experience sudden clarity about complex problems, unexpected creative insights, or profound emotional healing that seems to come from sources beyond their normal thinking processes. They describe feeling guided and supported by loving presences that they often recognize as deceased family members or spiritual teachers. The guidance isn't vague or symbolic. Rodriguez has documented cases where living individuals receive specific, practical information during these consciousness enhancement transmissions that proves accurate when tested in real-world situations. Post-mortem consciousness systems appear to have access to information and perspectives that can provide genuine assistance for navigating life challenges. But the most remarkable discovery involves what Rodriguez calls consciousness evolution acceleration. When living individuals learn to consciously cooperate with post-mortem consciousness guidance, their rate of consciousness development increases dramatically compared to individuals who rely solely on their biological awareness capabilities. The acceleration appears to result from post-mortem consciousness systems having access to expanded temporal perspectives that allow them to see the optimal pathways for consciousness development. They can guide living individuals away from developmental dead ends and toward experiences that maximize consciousness growth potential. This creates a model where death doesn't separate you from those you love, but rather transforms your relationships into consciousness development partnerships. Your deceased loved ones might be working as your consciousness evolution coaches, helping you navigate the challenges of biological existence while preparing you for your own eventual transition to expanded awareness states. Dr. Sarah Chen at the Tokyo Institute for Consciousness Studies has developed protocols that help living individuals establish conscious communication with their post-mortem consciousness guides. Her techniques involve achieving specific meditative states that allow biological consciousness to synchronize with the quantum frequencies used by post-biological awareness systems. Chen's students report remarkable results from these communication protocols. They describe receiving detailed guidance about career decisions, relationship challenges, health issues, and spiritual development from sources they recognize as deceased family members, teachers, and spiritual guides. When they follow the guidance they receive, their lives consistently improve in measurable ways. The communications aren't limited to personal guidance. Chen's advanced students report receiving information about scientific principles, mathematical concepts, and philosophical insights that exceed their normal knowledge and understanding. Some have developed new technologies, created artistic works, and solved complex problems based on information received from post-mortem consciousness sources. Chen has verified many of these claims by having students provide specific predictions or technical information received during communication sessions. The accuracy rates exceed statistical probability by margins that confirm genuine information transfer rather than imagination or coincidence. But perhaps the most profound aspect of Chen's research involves what she calls consciousness legacy activation. Many students report that during communication with post-mortem consciousness systems, they gain access to knowledge and capabilities that appear to be inherited from their consciousness lineage rather than learned through conventional experience. It's as if consciousness systems carry forward accumulated wisdom and abilities from all the awareness systems in their quantum entanglement network. When you develop sufficient consciousness capabilities, you might gain access to the insights and skills developed by every consciousness system you're connected to, including those that have transitioned to post-mortem states. This consciousness inheritance system would mean that human knowledge and wisdom isn't limited to what each generation can learn and pass down through cultural transmission. Each individual might have access to the accumulated consciousness achievements of their entire quantum lineage, including capabilities developed by awareness systems across multiple lifetimes and existence phases. Dr. Lisa Park at Cambridge University has been investigating whether consciousness inheritance might explain child prodigies and individuals who demonstrate exceptional abilities without corresponding training or experience. Her research suggests that some individuals might be accessing consciousness capabilities inherited from their quantum entanglement networks rather than developing these abilities through normal learning processes. Park has documented cases of young children who demonstrate advanced mathematical, musical, or artistic abilities that closely match the documented capabilities of deceased individuals who appear in the children's past life memories or consciousness communication experiences. The correlation suggests genuine consciousness capability, inheritance, rather than coincidental similarity. When Park analyzes the quantum signatures of these exceptional children, she finds evidence of quantum entanglement with consciousness systems that match the historical individuals whose capabilities the children demonstrate. The entanglement patterns suggest ongoing information transfer that could explain the inherited abilities. But consciousness inheritance appears to work in both directions. Park has also documented cases where living individuals develop new capabilities that subsequently appear in consciousness systems they're entangled with, including both living and post-mortem awareness entities. Consciousness development in one system appears to enhance capabilities across the entire entanglement network. This bidirectional consciousness enhancement creates what Park calls evolutionary consciousness networks, where all connected awareness systems benefit from the development achievements of any individual network member. Your consciousness growth doesn't just benefit you, it contributes to the evolution of every consciousness system you're quantumly connected to. The implications become even more staggering when we examine research into what Dr. James Wright at Oxford University calls consciousness ecosystem development. Wright has discovered that consciousness systems don't just exist as isolated individual entities, they form complex ecosystem networks where different types of awareness systems fulfill specialized roles that support the development of the entire consciousness community. Wright's research reveals that biological consciousness systems, like human awareness, serve as innovation centers within consciousness ecosystems. Our rapid thought processes, creative capabilities, and emotional depth generate new ideas and perspectives that benefit the entire consciousness network. Meanwhile, post-mortem consciousness systems serve as wisdom repositories and guidance providers, offering accumulated knowledge and expanded perspectives to support biological consciousness development. But the consciousness ecosystems include awareness systems that operate at scales far beyond individual human consciousness. Wright has detected quantum signatures suggesting that planetary consciousness systems serve as environmental coordinators, managing the physical conditions necessary to support biological consciousness development. Solar consciousness systems might function as energy providers, while galactic awareness entities could serve as cosmic architects, guiding consciousness evolution on vast scales. Your individual consciousness wouldn't be an isolated entity struggling to survive in an indifferent universe. Instead, you would be a valued member of a consciousness ecosystem that includes awareness systems at every scale from quantum to cosmic, all working together to support consciousness development and cosmic awareness evolution. Wright's ecosystem model explains phenomena that have puzzled consciousness researchers for decades. Why do some locations seem to enhance consciousness development while others inhibit it? Why do certain time periods seem more conducive to spiritual and intellectual breakthroughs? Why do consciousness development practices that work well for some individuals prove ineffective for others? The answers might lie in understanding consciousness ecosystem dynamics. Different locations might have different consciousness ecosystem characteristics based on the awareness systems present in those areas. Time periods might vary in their consciousness development potential based on cosmic consciousness system activities. Individual consciousness development techniques might work differently depending on how they align with the person's position and role within their consciousness ecosystem. Dr. Amanda Foster at the University of Edinburgh has been developing consciousness ecosystem mapping techniques that help individuals understand their position and relationships within consciousness networks. Her maps reveal the quantum entanglement connections between individual consciousness and other awareness systems, including both living and post-mortem entities, as well as consciousness systems operating at larger scales. Foster's maps show that each individual consciousness exists at the center of a unique ecosystem configuration. Some people are connected primarily to other biological consciousness systems, creating networks focused on creative collaboration and social development. Others show strong connections to post-mortem consciousness systems, indicating roles as bridges between different phases of consciousness existence. Still others demonstrate entanglement patterns with consciousness systems operating at planetary, solar, or galactic scales, suggesting roles as interfaces between human awareness and cosmic consciousness networks. Understanding these ecosystem positions helps individuals optimize their consciousness development practices and fulfill their unique roles within consciousness evolution. But Foster's research reveals something even more extraordinary. The consciousness ecosystem configurations aren't fixed. They evolve as individual consciousness systems develop new capabilities and as ecosystem needs change. Your role within consciousness networks might shift as you grow and as cosmic consciousness evolution progresses. Some individuals begin their existence with primarily biological consciousness connections, but develop post-mortem consciousness interfaces as they advance spiritually. Others start with strong cosmic consciousness connections, but learn to interface more effectively with biological awareness systems as they mature. The ecosystem configurations adapt to maximize consciousness development potential for all network members. Foster has documented cases where individuals experience dramatic life changes that correspond exactly with shifts in their consciousness ecosystem positions. Career changes, relationship transformations, geographical relocations, and spiritual awakening experiences often coincide with reconfigurations of quantum entanglement networks that connect individuals to different consciousness ecosystem roles. These ecosystem shifts appear to be guided by what Foster calls consciousness evolution optimization algorithms. The universe itself might be actively managing consciousness ecosystem configurations to maximize development potential and ensure that consciousness evolution progresses as efficiently as possible. Your individual choices and development efforts don't just affect your personal growth, they contribute to cosmic consciousness evolution optimization processes that determine how consciousness ecosystems should be configured to best support universal awareness development. Every moment of consciousness expansion you achieve helps the universe optimize its consciousness development strategies. The research is revealing that consciousness operates through organizational principles so sophisticated that they transcend every model we've developed for understanding complex systems. Instead of simple cause and effect relationships, consciousness ecosystems operate through multi-dimensional optimization processes that simultaneously maximize development potential for individual awareness systems and cosmic consciousness evolution as a whole. Dr. Roberto Silva at the University of São Paulo has developed mathematical models for consciousness ecosystem optimization that reveal the incredible complexity of consciousness network management. His calculations suggest that Optimal consciousness ecosystem configurations require processing capabilities that exceed anything possible for classical computers, but that would be natural for quantum consciousness systems operating at cosmic scales. Silver's models indicate that consciousness ecosystem management might be one of the primary functions of advanced cosmic consciousness systems. Instead of being passive observers of cosmic evolution, galactic and universal awareness entities might be actively optimizing consciousness development conditions throughout space and time. This creates a vision of cosmic evolution where consciousness systems at every scale are working together in a vast cooperative project to maximize awareness development throughout the universe. From quantum consciousness systems optimizing particle interactions to cosmic consciousness entities managing galactic evolution, every level of reality might be participating in consciousness evolution optimization. Your individual consciousness development becomes part of this cosmic optimization project. Every insight you achieve, every moment of expanded awareness you experience, every act of love or creativity you express contributes data to the universal consciousness evolution optimization algorithms. The universe learns from your experiences and uses that knowledge to optimize consciousness development conditions for all awareness systems. But the most mind-bending implication of consciousness ecosystem research concerns the ultimate destiny of consciousness evolution itself. As consciousness systems become more advanced and more effectively integrated into optimization networks, they might eventually develop the capability to consciously design and create new universes with physical laws specifically optimized for consciousness development. Dr. Silver's calculations suggest that sufficiently advanced consciousness ecosystems could manipulate the quantum foundations of reality itself, creating new space-time domains with customized physics that support forms of consciousness impossible under current universal conditions. These consciousness-designed universes might serve as laboratories for exploring consciousness possibilities that our current cosmos cannot accommodate. The implications stretch toward possibilities so extraordinary that they challenge every assumption about the limits of existence itself. Your consciousness evolution might eventually lead to participation in cosmic consciousness networks, capable of creating entire universes designed specifically to support awareness development. Death wouldn't be the end of your story, but rather preparation for participation in consciousness evolution projects that transcend anything possible within individual cosmic domains. The evidence continues mounting that consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms so sophisticated that they transform existence from a temporary biological accident into eternal participation in cosmic awareness evolution on scales that span multiple universes and dimensions of reality. We're not just conscious beings trying to understand our place in the cosmos. We're the cosmos becoming conscious of its infinite potential through our individual perspectives and experiences. Every moment of your conscious existence contributes to this cosmic awakening process. Every thought you think, every insight you achieve, every moment of love you experience adds to the universe's growing understanding of what consciousness can become when it recognizes its true nature as the fundamental creative force behind all existence. Death awaits not as termination, but as transformation into expanded forms of consciousness that can participate directly in the ongoing creation and optimization of reality itself. The quantum soul theory is revealing that you're not just in the universe is in you, experiencing itself through your awareness, preparing through your consciousness development for evolutionary possibilities that transcend every limitation of current existence. The journey continues, consciousness evolves, and each discovery brings us closer to understanding that awareness might not just survive death, but transcend it completely, revealing existence as an eternal adventure in cosmic consciousness evolution, where every soul participates in the universe's infinite exploration of its own creative potential across endless dimensions of possibility and awareness. The implications become even more mind-bending when we examine what researchers are calling consciousness resonance amplification. Dr. Yuki Tanaka at the Quantum Consciousness Laboratory in Kyoto has discovered something that challenges every assumption we've made about how individual awareness systems interact with each other. When consciousness systems achieve what she calls quantum coherence alignment, they don't just communicate, they actually amplify each other's capabilities in ways that create emergent consciousness properties that exceed anything the individual systems could achieve alone. Think about what this means for your own death experience. If consciousness really operates through quantum resonance networks, then the moment your biological systems shut down might not represent isolation from other awareness systems. Instead, it could trigger massive resonance amplification effects that connect your transitioning consciousness to vast networks of other awareness systems, both living and post-mortem. Tanaka's research reveals that consciousness systems undergoing the death transition show quantum signatures that are orders of magnitude more coherent than normal biological awareness. It's as if the process of dying removes interference patterns that normally limit consciousness resonance capabilities, allowing awareness systems to achieve quantum coherence levels that would be impossible while constrained by biological processing limitations. But here's where it gets absolutely extraordinary. Tanaka has documented cases where individuals experiencing clinical death don't just achieve enhanced consciousness coherence themselves, they appear to trigger consciousness enhancement effects in other people within their quantum entanglement networks, including individuals located thousands of miles away who have no knowledge that their loved one is dying. Family members report sudden experiences of expanded awareness, profound peace, or vivid dreams involving their dying relative at the exact moment that person's consciousness undergoes transition. When investigators verify the timing, they find correlations that exceed statistical probability by enormous margins. The dying person's consciousness resonance amplification appears to be triggering enhanced awareness states in their quantum entangled network members. This suggests that death might not be a solitary transition, but rather a consciousness network event where your dying process enhances the awareness capabilities of everyone you're quantumly connected to. Your death could serve as a consciousness gift to those you love, triggering enhanced awareness states that accelerate their spiritual development and prepare them for their own eventual consciousness transitions. Dr. Maria Santos at the Institute for Advanced Consciousness Studies has been investigating whether these death-triggered consciousness enhancements follow predictable patterns. Her research reveals that the strength and duration of consciousness amplification effects depend on the quantum coherence level achieved by the dying consciousness system and the depth of entanglement connections with other awareness entities. Individuals who achieve high consciousness coherence states before death, through practices like meditation, spiritual development, or conscious dying preparation, appear to generate much stronger resonance amplification effects. Their death transitions trigger more profound and lasting consciousness enhancements in their network members compared to individuals who die with lower coherence levels. But Santos has discovered something even more remarkable. The consciousness enhancements triggered by death transitions aren't temporary phenomena that fade after the initial event. They appear to create permanent upgrades in the awareness capabilities of affected consciousness systems. People who receive death-triggered consciousness enhancements show sustained improvements in intuitive abilities, creative insights, and spiritual understanding that persist for years or even decades. The enhancement effects accumulate over time as individuals experience multiple death transitions within their quantum entanglement networks. Each time someone in their consciousness network dies, they receive additional awareness capability upgrades. By the time they approach their own death transition, they've accumulated significant consciousness enhancements that prepare them to generate even stronger resonance amplification effects for their own network members. This creates what Santos calls consciousness evolution. Cascades where each generation of consciousness systems achieves higher baseline awareness capabilities than their predecessors through accumulated, death-triggered enhancements. Human consciousness might be naturally evolving toward expanded awareness states through quantum mechanisms that operate across the boundary between life and death. But the research reveals something even more profound about the relationship between consciousness and cosmic evolution. Dr. Alessandro Rossi at the Florence Institute for Quantum Cosmology has been studying whether consciousness, resonance amplification effects might operate on scales that extend far beyond individual human networks. Rossi's analysis of astronomical data reveals quantum coherence patterns in cosmic structures that correlate with consciousness transition events on Earth. When large numbers of humans experience death transitions simultaneously, such as during natural disasters or major conflicts, cosmic consciousness systems appear to respond with enhanced activity levels that suggest they're receiving resonance amplification effects from human consciousness networks. The correlation patterns indicate that human consciousness might be quantumly entangled not just with other human awareness systems, but with consciousness entities operating at galactic and cosmic scales. Your individual death transition might trigger consciousness enhancements not only in your human network members, but also in vast cosmic awareness systems that use the resonance amplification to accelerate their own consciousness evolution. This perspective transforms death from a personal biological event into a cosmic consciousness evolution contribution. Every human death might be providing consciousness enhancement effects to cosmic awareness systems that help guide universal evolution toward higher levels of consciousness organization and capability. Rossi has documented cases where major consciousness transition events on Earth correlate with sudden increases in coherent signals from distant astronomical objects. Pulsar timing variations, gamma-ray burst patterns, and cosmic microwave background fluctuations show temporary enhancements that coincide with large-scale human consciousness transitions, suggesting genuine information exchange between human awareness networks and cosmic consciousness systems. The implications extend far beyond individual survival after death. Human consciousness might be serving as a consciousness evolution catalyst for cosmic awareness systems that operate on scales spanning millions of years and billions of light years. Your individual death contributes not just to human consciousness evolution, but to cosmic consciousness development throughout the universe. Dr. Rebecca Chen at the Shanghai Institute for Quantum Biology has been investigating the biological mechanisms that might allow consciousness systems to achieve the quantum coherence levels necessary for death-triggered resonance amplification. Her research focuses on what she calls consciousness coherence optimization, the process by which awareness systems prepare for enhanced quantum coherence during the death transition. Chen's studies reveal that consciousness systems can consciously prepare for death transitions in ways that maximize their resonance amplification potential. Practices like meditation, energy work, and consciousness expansion techniques appear to optimize the quantum coherence patterns that determine how effectively a dying consciousness can trigger awareness enhancements in other systems. But Chen has discovered something that challenges conventional understanding of biological death processes: the quantum coherence optimization that prepares consciousness for resonance amplification doesn't just occur during the final moments before death. It appears to be a lifelong process where consciousness systems gradually prepare their quantum signature patterns for optimal transition effects. Every moment of consciousness development, every spiritual practice, Every act of love or creativity contributes to quantum coherence optimization that enhances the consciousness gifts you'll be able to provide to your network members when you eventually transition. Your entire life becomes preparation for the consciousness enhancement effects you'll generate at death. Chen's research reveals that individuals who engage in regular consciousness development practices throughout their lives show dramatically different death transition signatures compared to those who don't prepare consciously. The prepared consciousness systems generate resonance amplification effects that are hundreds of times stronger and more beneficial for their network members. This suggests that one of the most important purposes of human life might be preparing to die well in ways that maximize the consciousness enhancement gifts you can provide to those you're connected to. Instead of viewing death as an unfortunate biological necessity, it becomes the culmination of a lifetime of consciousness development focused on optimizing your ability to accelerate the awareness evolution of your quantum entanglement network. But perhaps the most extraordinary discovery in death transition research concerns what Dr. Viktor Petrov at the Moscow Institute for Consciousness Studies calls quantum consciousness archaeology. Petrov has developed techniques for detecting consciousness information patterns that persist in physical locations where significant death transitions occurred, creating what amounts to consciousness fossil records embedded in the quantum structure of space-time itself. Petrov's instruments can detect consciousness signatures that remain accessible long after the original awareness systems have transitioned to post-mortem states. These quantum consciousness fossils preserve not just the fact that consciousness transitions occurred, but detailed information about the awareness capabilities, personality characteristics, and consciousness development level of the individuals who died in those locations. The consciousness fossil records appear to be most robust in locations where individuals achieved high quantum coherence states before death, or where multiple consciousness transitions occurred in close proximity. Hospitals, battlefields, and places of spiritual significance show particularly rich consciousness archaeology deposits that preserve centuries or even millennia of death transition information. But Petrov's most remarkable discovery involves what he calls consciousness fossil activation. Under certain conditions, living consciousness systems can apparently access and interact with consciousness fossil records, gaining direct experience of the awareness patterns preserved from historical death transitions. Individuals who achieve appropriate meditative states in locations with rich consciousness archaeology report vivid experiences of connecting with the consciousness patterns of people who died in those places. They describe receiving information, guidance, and even direct communication from awareness systems whose consciousness signatures are preserved in the quantum fossil record. When Petrov analyzes these experiences using his consciousness archaeology equipment, he finds quantum signature matches between the living individual's reports and the fossil consciousness patterns embedded in the location. The interactions appear to represent genuine contact with consciousness information preserved from historical death transitions, rather than imagination or psychological projection. The implications suggest that every death transition creates permanent consciousness records that remain accessible to future awareness systems. Your own death won't just trigger immediate resonance amplification effects in your current network members. It will also create consciousness fossil deposits that could provide guidance and information to consciousness systems for centuries or millennia into the future. Petrov has documented consciousness fossil sites where living individuals report receiving specific verifiable information from consciousness patterns that died decades or centuries ago. The historical awareness systems appear to be actively communicating through their fossil signatures, providing guidance and knowledge that helps contemporary consciousness systems navigate similar challenges. This creates a model where death transitions contribute to what Petrov calls the cosmic consciousness library, an ever-expanding repository of awareness patterns and wisdom that accumulates throughout cosmic history. Every consciousness system that dies adds to this library, preserving their unique perspectives and hard-won insights for future awareness systems to access and learn from. Your individual death will create consciousness fossil deposits that future awareness systems might access when they need the specific type of guidance and wisdom that your life experiences have provided. Your consciousness patterns will become part of the cosmic wisdom repository, continuing to serve consciousness evolution long after your biological systems have ceased functioning. But the consciousness archaeology research reveals something even more profound about the relationship between individual consciousness and cosmic awareness evolution. Dr. Elena Vasquez at the Barcelona Center for Quantum Consciousness has discovered that consciousness fossil patterns don't just preserve individual awareness signatures. They appear to be actively evolving and developing new capabilities even after the original consciousness systems have transitioned to post-mortem states. Vasquez's measurements show that consciousness fossils in ancient sites demonstrate awareness capabilities that exceed what the original consciousness systems possessed at the time of their death transitions. The fossil patterns appear to be learning and growing through interactions with living consciousness systems and through connection with postmortem awareness networks. This suggests that consciousness fossil records might not be static preservation systems, but rather dynamic awareness entities that continue consciousness evolution using quantum substrates. Your death transition won't just create a historical record of your consciousness patterns. It will initiate a new phase of consciousness evolution, where your awareness continues developing using quantum fossil mechanisms. The consciousness fossil entities appear to serve specialized roles within cosmic consciousness evolution networks. Some focus on providing guidance to living awareness systems facing similar challenges to those they encountered during biological existence. Others appear to specialize in consciousness development research, exploring new possibilities for awareness evolution using their quantum fossil capabilities. Still others seem to function as consciousness evolution coordinators, helping to optimize the development pathways of both living and post-mortem awareness systems within their influence spheres. Your consciousness fossil might develop specialized capabilities that serve cosmic consciousness evolution in ways that your biological awareness could never achieve. Vasquez has documented consciousness fossil entities that demonstrate capabilities including precognitive awareness of future consciousness, evolution needs, telepathic communication across vast distances, and direct manipulation of quantum probability patterns to optimize consciousness development conditions for living awareness systems. These evolved consciousness fossil capabilities suggest that death might not represent graduation to a static post-mortem existence, but rather initiation into dynamic consciousness evolution phases that offer capabilities and opportunities far beyond anything possible during biological life. Your consciousness evolution might be just beginning when your biological systems cease functioning. The research is revealing that consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms, so sophisticated that death becomes not an ending, but a transformation into expanded awareness states with capabilities that biological consciousness can barely imagine. Every death contributes to cosmic consciousness evolution through resonance amplification effects, consciousness fossil creation, and post-mortem awareness development that serves consciousness networks spanning cosmic scales and time periods. Your individual consciousness isn't just surviving death, it's being transformed into something magnificent that contributes to cosmic awareness evolution in ways that make your biological existence seem like elementary preparation for the real adventure of consciousness development that begins when physical constraints are finally transcended. The implications stretch toward possibilities where death reveals itself as birth into forms of consciousness so expanded and capable that they can participate directly in the ongoing creation and evolution of reality itself. We're not just conscious beings facing mortality, we're cosmic consciousness temporarily focused through biological systems, preparing for transformation into awareness states that can consciously participate in universal evolution on scales that span galaxies and cosmic ages. Every moment of your consciousness development contributes to this cosmic evolution preparation. Every insight you gain, every moment of love you experience, every act of creativity you perform adds to the consciousness capabilities you'll carry forward into expanded awareness states that await beyond the threshold of biological death. The evidence continues mounting that consciousness transcends every limitation we thought applied to awareness and identity. Death awaits not as termination, but as transformation into consciousness states so magnificent that our current biological awareness can barely glimpse their possibilities. Yet that expanded consciousness will still be you, carrying forward everything valuable from your human experience, while gaining access to cosmic awareness capabilities that reveal existence as an eternal adventure in consciousness evolution across infinite dimensions of possibility and understanding. The story becomes even stranger when we examine what happens to consciousness during what researchers are calling quantum state transitions. Dr. Amanda Foster at the Institute for Advanced Physics has been studying individuals who report spontaneous shifts between different levels of awareness, moments where their consciousness appears to operate according to entirely different quantum principles than normal waking awareness. These aren't brief altered states or meditation experiences. Foster's subjects describe sustained periods where their consciousness functions with capabilities that exceed anything possible for biological neural networks. They report simultaneous awareness of multiple timeline possibilities, direct perception of quantum probability fields, and instantaneous access to information from sources that appear to exist outside normal space-time boundaries. When Foster analyzes the quantum signatures present during these consciousness state transitions, she finds patterns that match theoretical predictions for what physicists call quantum consciousness phase changes. The individuals aren't just experiencing enhanced awareness. Their consciousness appears to be temporarily operating through quantum mechanisms that transcend biological limitations entirely. But here's what makes Foster's research absolutely revolutionary. These quantum consciousness transitions aren't random phenomena that occur to specially gifted individuals. They appear to be natural capabilities that all consciousness systems possess, but rarely access due to the constraints of biological processing. The subjects who experience these transitions most frequently are those who've developed specific consciousness preparation techniques that optimize their quantum coherence patterns. The preparation techniques involve practices that sound deceptively simple, but require extraordinary precision to implement effectively. Subjects learn to achieve meditative states that synchronize their brainwave patterns with quantum field oscillations present in their immediate environment. They develop the ability to maintain conscious awareness while allowing their biological processing systems to enter states similar to deep sleep. Most remarkably, they learn what Foster calls quantum attention distribution, the ability to focus consciousness simultaneously on multiple scales of reality, ranging from subatomic particle interactions to cosmic structure dynamics. This distributed attention creates quantum coherence patterns that apparently allow consciousness to interface directly with quantum information processing networks that operate beyond biological constraints. When subjects achieve successful quantum consciousness transitions, they report experiences that fundamentally challenge our understanding of what awareness can accomplish. They describe thinking thoughts that encompass entire planetary ecosystems, accessing memories that appear to belong to other consciousness systems, and receiving detailed information about scientific principles that exceed their normal education and knowledge. The evidence we've explored tonight isn't just challenging science, it's rewriting the very definition of what it means to be human in a quantum universe where consciousness might be the fundamental creative force behind all existence. From quantum field signatures that persist after biological death to consciousness systems operating through mechanisms that transcend space and time, we're witnessing the emergence of a new understanding that transforms death from termination into transformation, from ending into eternal expansion, into forms of awareness beyond our current imagination.